We talked about last week that kids have been watching, astrophysicists, and they're getting excited about deep space, and yet what do they do with that information? How can they convert that into a passion to go, I want to be part of, really discovering what's going on in outer space. So when we come back, we have this absolute gem in our community called the Challenger Center for Space Science Education. We have one here in Nevada, and I want Tom and Brad to talk about what's going on there and why we here can do something about fostering that inspiration in young people. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back talking with Tom Taormina and Brad Haddock, and I want to first talk about the Challenger Center for Space Science Education. So, Tom, tell us what that is.
When we had the tragic disaster with the Challenger spacecraft where it exploded, the families of the astronauts that were on board created the Challenger Learning Center Foundation. It's probably one of the most enlightened moves that has been done, and of course it's private sector. What they've done is they've said, how can we take the knowledge, the theme of that mission was teaching, and how can we perpetuate that and build on the legacy of those poor folks that perished in that accident? So they came up with a model called the Challenger Learning Center. And what it is a simulated mission control room, a simulated space vehicle that takes you to Mars or wherever you want to go. And when you get there, you get out into a laboratory environment where there's experiments all around the room. And the Challenger Learning Center of Northern Nevada is one of 43 such centers. And we were just very fortunate that a couple, Paul and Jenny McFarlane, got bitten by the bug and went through the absolute rigor of trying to get it set up here in Northern Nevada. Its original home was at Sparks High School, and they put literally thousands and thousands of K through 12 youngsters through the program. And what's different about it compared to traditional education is they got to pick who was going to be the flight controller, who was going to be the mission specialist, who was going to work these experiments. And they were accountable to one another. So youngsters who sat across the table from each other in school were actually symbiotically working with them and maybe 10 or 12 other youngsters. And then the genius of the Challenger Learning Center model is that they would throw in emergency conditions. Your oxygen in the booth is expiring, it's filling with CO2, go get your mask. And at the end of the day, the K through 12 mostly come away with, I didn't know I could be in charge of my own destiny. I didn't know I could work with that fellow over there who I don't really like a whole lot, but boy, when we worked together, it clicked. That is the genesis of the Challenger Learning Center program.
And so now, Brad, it's located at the National Automobile Museum. Talk about this room, this space. I mean, when you walk in, what is it I experience?
It's patterned after a combination of mission control and the mission engineering rooms, et cetera, in NASA. And then, obviously, the remote base that we would have laboratory environments and that sort of thing in. It's really inviting for kids and parents. My wife and I sat down in one of the simulators and had to run it and everything. And I'm thinking, God, if one of these things had existed when my kids were little, they would have really benefited by seeing it. This is open to everybody. This is an opportunity for all kids and parents to bring their kids to check out and get some experience on what it is to fly a mission. I think the imperatives that Tom was talking about just a minute ago get transferred during these missions, and the imperatives are the same ones that we use in the aerospace business in order to make a successful mission. And those are things like accountability to one another, accountability to the mission, communication. That kid over there that I necessarily don't like, in order to be successful, I have to communicate with him. Teamwork is kind of the same thing. And the commitment to the mission. What is the mission? It's those special imperatives that we all drag around with us every day in the aerospace business.
It's critical because, the jobs of the future require critical thinking, data analysis. I mean, this provides a lot of that kind of basic training in these missions.
Absolutely. And the other model that it puts forth is what are we going to do with the seeds we've planted with these young people? We left Sparks High School a year ago. The National Automobile Museum, Jackie and her staff just took us in and said, this is just a great place for us. It started with the transition of lunar vehicles versus terrestrial vehicles. And I'm going to ask your audience to help out because the actual Challenger Learning Center program has been stopped for a while because of funding and retooling the Auto Museum to allow this thing to exist. Grants, donations, Challenger Learning Center of Northern Nevada, look it up.
It's a 501c3.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, if anyone's never been to the Nevada Automobile Museum and you have an opportunity to look at the Challenger Learning Center, really encouraging these classrooms. So kids, any school teacher out there that has a classroom of kids that wants to do something fun and unique for a field trip, it's ideal.
The fact that we have been embraced at the Automobile Museum, that they have encouraged us, and we just dedicated the Nevada Space Center. So to amplify on what's going on with the Challenger Learning Center program, we now have 3 different exhibit areas at the National Automobile Museum that are up and running, simulators. We had the dedication on June 3rd. Rod Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry's son, the inventor of Star Trek, was our guest. We dedicated the Roddenberry Center within the museum. And so the reason I'm making the connection is because with CEOs that go to a Tony Robbins session and then come back and nothing has changed, the Nevada Space Center now, we are going to start evolving. What do we do next with these bright minds that just got exposed to something? And we had press day several weeks ago, and I thought, it was supposed to be like an hour event. We couldn't get them out of the simulators.
So companies can go there for team building exercise. I mean, it's not just for kids, like you said, Brad. Parents, business owners, entrepreneurs, anyone that wants to really do something fun and different for a team building, collaboration. How do we work more effectively together? And literally, you put these people into life or death situations, and it's amazing how creative and problem-solving your team can be.
Well, my pseudo title is Director of Enterprise Missions. And we did run our first company through there last summer, and it was such an overwhelming success. I did a debriefing with the company afterwards, and they all had different answers. Well, we learned to work as a team. Well, we learned to work solving problems. And again, we need to grab that seed and develop it, germinate it, and get it to be the force that drives our businesses to greatness. The circle is so clear to me that you have the vision, you have the mission, you have the leadership, and then from there, everybody gets caught up in it.
Yeah, but Tom, you're unique because you think outside the globe.
Yes, I
right?
do.
Yeah, he's unique, all right.
Thank you, Brad.
So the Nevada Space Center is part of the Nevada Challenger Learning Center. That's
correct.
what you're saying?
It's the same board of directors and advisors. Brad and I are on the advisory boards. It was an evolution. Once we moved into the museum and there was such enthusiasm for what we were doing, the greatest part of the exhibit is my Apollo artifacts.
Well, yes.
But then all of a sudden, like the enthusiasm we got from the museum, we've got the simulators, we got spacesuits, we've got the mock-up rover that Virginia City High School built for their competition. It's just growing. The enthusiasm leads to enthusiasm. I brought Brad in, and guess what? Brad's on the advisory board now. We are actively looking for other members of the space program who are in the region, and we're going to highlight our contribution to the space program. Unless you've lived here a long time, you didn't know that the rockets were developed just up the road at Rocketdyne. Elon Musk has a battery factory here, but it's also pushing the state of the art to get out of hiding like he was and get the rest of these people to put their piece in the museum and to have regular program of here's what we did. Brad and I went through it the other day.
Yeah, we had an incident on Space Station a number of years ago where the solar arrays are made to retract and then re-extend so we can get them out of the way for certain things. And we retracted one, then we extended it. And as we extended it, it tore. And we had to set about figuring out a solution at Mission Control to fix it and then write the procedures to send astronaut Scott Parazynski and Dan Wheelock running the remote arm to send Scott farther than any astronaut has ever been out to put these little adaptations of stuff that we found on space station to fix the solar array. And it was wildly successful. And it's such a great story, but nobody knows that that ever happened. And there are other stories like that. I think the plan going forward is to bring that excitement to the Nevada Space Center Challenger Learning Center in the form of presentations that people can see and understand how the solutions were arrived at.
Well, and the people that were involved in creating those solutions. With that, we're going to wrap up the show. I want to thank my guests, Brad Haddock and Rocket Tom Taormina. So anyone wants to learn more about you, Tom, they can go to rockettom.com.
Rockettom.com.
All right. Same lunar channel next week, same time.